Linda's boot caught on a sidewalk crack, sending her sprawling into a sea of rainbow scarves and laughter outside a Toronto community center. 50 years young, she clutched her grandmother's leather notebook like a lifeline, until a flyer for a virtual journaling circle fluttered onto her chest. "Write your next chapter," it teased. Linda snorted. Fam wouldn't believe she'd face-planted into renewal. But as she brushed off her knees, that odd little book pulsed with possibility, its pages whispering, "Why not start with fall?" Linda's boot caught on a sidewalk crack, sending her leather notebook skidding across damp pavement. She scooped it up, brushing autumn leaves from its creased cover, same one she'd carried since her twins left for university, its spine cracked like her confidence. 50 years old and tripping over her own life. Classic. Toronto's community center hummed ahead, its windows glowing like jars of honey. Inside, a virtual journaling circle waited, strangers' faces tiled on a screen, all clutching their own versions of her notebook. Linda hesitated. What if pouring her heart onto paper just made quiet louder? Fear slithered in, a vine-choking old growth, convincing her roots had nowhere left to spread. But she clicked join. Fingers trembled as she uncapped her pen. First strokes were clumsy, ink blots like scattered birdseed. Then words came, not about missing her kids' laughter, though God, she did, but about rediscovering her own. She wrote about salsa classes where her hips betrayed her, about burning garlic naan and calling it artisanal. Group chuckled, someone murmured same, fam. That notebook, once a relic of packed lunches and permission slips, now held her reinvention. Pages filled with grocery lists and gratitudes, with pressed maple leaves and a haiku about her neighbor's yappy terrier. Grief had been a locked room, journaling turned it into a garden where she could kneel, dirt under her nails, planting something new. By winter, Linda's notebook bulged. She no longer noticed sidewalk cracks, too busy stepping toward what grew next. Linda's boot caught on a sidewalk crack, sending her leather notebook skidding across damp pavement. She scooped it up, brushing off autumn leaves clinging to its cover like stubborn memories. 50 years old and still tripping over life's uneven spots, classic. Inside that notebook, though, was something steadier, ink-smudged pages filled with half-formed thoughts, grocery lists masquerading as poetry, and a growing collection of what now? Musings since her youngest left for university. A flyer taped to a lamppost caught her eye, virtual journaling circle, rewrite your next chapter. Below it, a cartoon coffee cup steamed cheerfully. Linda snapped a photo, chuckling how universe nudged with all subtlety of a neon sign. That evening, she logged into her first session, expecting awkward silences. Instead, she found a pixelated fam of women spanning ages, time zones, and life chapters. There was Marjorie, 72, who journaled in haiku, Priya, 45, scribbling between night shifts, and a moderator named Elena whose laugh lines deepened every time someone called their shared screen a digital campfire. First, Linda's entries were cautious, circling her empty house feelings like a tongue probing a loose tooth. But week by week, her notebook became less a receptacle for absence and more a compass. She filled margins with Toronto's quirks, way sunlight hit CN Tower golden hour, or that community center yoga class where she'd accidentally worn socks with grips and spent an hour sliding like a newborn giraffe. Elena noticed Linda's knack for finding humor in mundane, and nudged her to lead a prompt. Write about a time you tripped, literally or metaphorically. Linda hesitated, then shared her sidewalk stumble, how it led her here. Group erupted in snaps, apparently, Zoom had a clapping emoji shortage. Later, Marjorie DM'd her, honey, falling's just universe's way of rearranging your view. By winter, Linda's notebook bore scars of use, a dent from being stuffed into bags, a T-ring on page 47 like a makeshift wax seal. It no longer felt like a placeholder for what was missing, but proof she was still becoming. She signed up to host a hybrid journaling workshop local library, where real-life ink met digital high-fives. That cracked sidewalk. Turned out it wasn't an obstacle. Just first sentence of a better story. Linda's boot caught on a sidewalk crack, sending her stumbling toward a community center flyer taped to a lamppost. Virtual journaling circle, no experience needed. 50 years old and tripping over her own feet, classic. She scoffed but didn't walk away. That leather notebook in her bag, a gift from her daughter who'd left for college last fall, had stayed untouched, its pages as empty as her quiet house. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed over a half-circle of folding chairs. She clutched her notebook like a shield. What was she doing here? Journaling was for teenagers or people who drank kale smoothies. But when facilitator, a woman with silver braids and a been-there smile, said, "Write 3 things that made you smile this week," Linda's pen hovered. She scribbled, "Squirrel stealing a muffin. Old reggae song on radio. Blank." God, this was pathetic. Yet she came back. Each session, that leather cover grew softer under her fingers, pages filling with messy ink. Some entries were gripes, "Why does my knee sound like popcorn?" Others small victories, "Drove past Danny's dorm without crying." Nights felt less hollow when she curled up with her notebook, stubbornly hunting for bright spots like a detective with a bad back. Then winter hit hard. Snow piled up and she skipped 2 meetings. Her notebook gathered dust until she found it buried under mail, bills, ads, a postcard from Danny with a doodled heart. That night, she wrote one raw sentence, "I miss being needed." Tears smudged ink, but for first time in months, Ake had somewhere to go. By spring, her journal had become a map of reinvention. She logged new routines, pottery classes, community center, walks by lake where geese squabbled like her old fam Thanksgiving. One entry simply read, "Today, I didn't count days till Danny's visit." Progress, not perfection. Final circle meeting, Silver Braids handed her a sticker, "Ask me about my journal," and Linda laughed. 50 years old and proud of a gold star. But that notebook, once a symbol of loss, now bulged with stories only she could tell. Outside, she stepped over sidewalk cracks with lighter feet, ready to write her next chapter, one stubborn word at a time. Linda's boot caught on a sidewalk crack, sending her leather notebook skidding across icy pavement. She scooped it up, brushing snow off its worn cover, her lifeline since kids left for college. 50 and feeling untethered, she'd filled its pages with grief, then grit, then wild ideas. Today? Gutsy move time. Inside a bustling Toronto community center, woman unzipped her bag with shaky hands. A poster behind her screamed in her own loopy handwriting. Skeptical side eyes from early arrivals made her pulse spike. One woman, arms crossed, muttered to a friend, "Classic skeptic vibes." She smirked. She'd been that woman 6 months ago, scoffing self-help fluff. Now? She slapped her notebook onto table with a thud that silenced murmurs. "Fam, this ain't therapy," she announced, flipping to a page smudged with coffee rings. "It's rebellion." Laughter loosened room. She shared how scribbling anger silent hallways morphed into plotting adventures, solo trips, pottery classes, even salsa lessons. Empty nests, just life's way of saying tag, "You're it," skeptics arms uncrossed. Then, plot twist. A teen in back snapped a pic mid-sentence, Linda's silver-streaked hair catching winter light as she brandished her notebook like Excalibur. By evening, journaling rebellion trended locally. Texts flooded in, "My mom needs this. Teach us." Skeptic slid a torn scrap toward her after class, "Started my own." "Thank you." Packing up, Linda traced her notebook's creased spine. Crowd's energy still buzzed in her chest. This was more than fresh starts. It was proof, 50 wasn't an epilogue. Somewhere between spilled ink and viral moments, she'd turned a lonely season into a launch pad. Outside, snow fell softer. She tucked her symbol under one arm and stepped into glow of streetlights, thinking, "This is my start." And oh, what a start it was. Linda's boot caught on a sidewalk crack, sending her leather notebook skidding across damp pavement. She scooped it up, chuckling her own klutziness, 50 years young, and still tripping over life's literal bumps. But that notebook. Her lifeline. Inside, scribbled truths mingled with grocery lists, proving renewal wasn't some lofty ideal, but a messy, ink-stained practice. Toronto's community centers became her second home, where she launched Scribble and Rise, a virtual journaling circle for women with stories thicker than their favorite sweaters. What started as a solo habit bloomed into a movement. Strangers turned fam, bonding over shared pages and oddball prompts. Describe your childhood bedroom as a cocktail. Linda's empty nest. Now brimming with voices, real and pixelated, all stitching their next chapters together. Her notebook, once a solitary confidant, grew dog-eared from passing around workshops. She guided hesitant hands, showing how grief could fold into gratitude like origami. Even her quirks, like doodling mustaches on historical figures, became signature charm. "Aging's just upgrading your software," she'd say, grinning as screens filled with women scribbling furiously, their laughter crackling through Zoom like static confetti. By season's end, Linda wasn't just healing, she'd built a lighthouse. And every inked page, a beacon. Grab your pen, your story's next chapter starts now.